Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another daily dose of Unstable spoilers. So we're kind of getting near the end of Unstable spoiler season, just kind of wrapping up the last few cards. The full set comes out tomorrow. Good news is, we got a couple of really interesting cards to talk about today. So not a ton of cards by number, but some of the most interesting cards, maybe from the entire set, which means we should probably jump right into it and talk about the first ever unset Planeswalker, Urza Academy Headmaster. 5 mana, 1 of each color, you get 4 loyalty, and every single loyalty ability, +1, -1, -6, tells you to head to askurza.com and click on a certain button. The +1 button, the -1 button, the -6 button. So right now, if you go to askurza.com, you get to see a picture of Urza. You get to see kind of the Planeswalker card. There are buttons there you can push for each loyalty. The problem is, when you push them, it says to come back on December 8th, which is when Unstable releases. So as of right now, we know that Urza got some sweet flavor. It's an iconic character. It's a 5-color Planeswalker. Tons of cool things there, but we don't really know at all what Urza Academy Headmaster does. Based on how it's formatted, I assume that, let's say for the +1 ability, there's 5 different abilities, 8 different abilities, some number of different abilities, and then when you go to the site, you click it, and that's the ability you get for that activation. And it's probably like that for all of those. The thing is, we don't really know what they are now. We actually got to wait a little while, like 3 weeks until December 8th to find out. So really cool to see a 5-color Planeswalker. Sweet to see Urza make a return. Unfortunately, no clue what Urza is actually up to until December 8th, so we'll have to wait and see. Next on our list, we got Animate Library, which is a super fun card. 6 mana enchantment, you enchant your library, and your library becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to the number of cards in it. So let's play you're playing Commander. You play this on turn 6, you're going to get something like a 88/88 artifact creature when you resolve your Animate Library, because that's how many cards are going to be in your library. That is a big old creature. Of course, it's going to shrink a little each turn as you draw cards, 87, 87, 86, 86, etc., etc. But that's enough to one-shot just about anyone in every format, and that's not even considering the potential of, like, flinging your Animate Library at someone. There's ways you just combo kill for 2 mana with fling and stuff like that. So this card seems super, super busted. Even has the upside that if your enchanted library would leave the battlefield, instead you just exile your Animate Library. So you don't even have the downside of your opponent killing your library and you just losing the game. Instead, you just lose the huge creature. Your library goes back to being a normal old library. It's also cool to see kind of a callback to some iconic cards here. Animate Artifact and Soul Artifact. There's a long history in Magic of blue enchantments that turn things into artifact creatures. Animate Library, the biggest and baddest we've ever seen in this genre. Next on our list, we have Graveyard Busybody. 6 mana, you get a star. It makes it so all graveyards are also your graveyard, which is pretty powerful. Suddenly, you own, along with your opponents, all of their graveyards, and Graveyard Busybody's power and toughness equal to all the cards with flavor text in all graveyards. Well, in your graveyard, but that means all graveyards as long as Graveyard Busybody's on the battlefield, which means not only can you get a really huge creature, a lot of cards have flavor text, so this is probably going to be a 10-10, a 15-15, depending on the situation. You can also do some cool tricks. For example, Liliana's Death Majesty reanimates a creature from your graveyard. Splinter Fright, power and toughness equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. Well, when you have a Graveyard Busybody out, they're going to be much more powerful. You can reanimate something from anyone's graveyard with Liliana because it's your graveyard. Your Splinter Fright's going to be 3 or 4 times as big depending on how many players are in the game because it counts the creatures in everyone's graveyard because they're your graveyard. So really cool, really fun, super unique card, big threat on its own, and tons of sweet tricks you can pull off by owning everyone else's graveyard. Phoebe, Head of Sneak, legendary mythic from the blue-black spy tribe in Unstable, and this one's kind of fun. So ability-wise, kind of meh, 3 mana you get a 2/3, whatever, can't be blocked by creatures with flavor text. I guess that's an upside. The big thing here is Phoebe can pay 4 mana and permanently steal a creature's text box, and this ability is super awesome. So let's say your opponent has an Emrakul, but you don't really want to get annihilated by this huge flying Eldrazi, so you pay 4 mana. Suddenly, your Phoebe has Emrakul's text box, so you get the Annihilator 6. You get flying and all the other abilities on the card, However, it's better than that, because when you steal the text box, Emrakul will lose the text box. So yes, it's still a big dumb 15/15, but it no longer has Annihilator, it no longer has Flying. It's significantly less scary, so you kind of get the double whammy here. Not only are you making your phobie into any creature you want, almost like a weird clone effect from the battlefield, but you're making your opponent's creature into a vanilla creature as well, which is super, super sweet. So you could potentially just keep paying 4 mana over and over and over again and make all of your opponent's stuff into vanilla creatures, and creatures are much less powerful when they're vanilla, so really cool, really fun ability on Phobie Head of Sneak. We also got some more contraption cards. Suspicious Nanny is a super sweet one. Essentially what this does is steals one of your opponent's contraptions when it deals combat damage to that player. So you gain control of it, you choose what sprocket it goes on, suddenly your opponent's best contraption is now your best contraption. So if you ever play the contraption mirror, Suspicious Nanny seems like super good sideboard tech for that matchup. As far as Cogmentor, it doesn't interact with your opponent's contraption, but it gives you a 1-mana 1/1 with Flying even, which allows you to move your contraptions from sprocket to sprocket, which is super cool. Say you have one contraption that's really, really good. The problem is you only get to trigger it every 3rd turn because you got to wait for your counter to move through the sprockets. Cogmentor lets you just pay 4 mana, bump that contraption up to the next sprocket, so it's going to trigger again the next turn. Bump it up to the next sprocket, trigger again the next turn. So for 4 mana, you can basically use your best contraption every single turn with a Cogmentor on the battlefield. Clocknapper is another super sweet steely card. So 5 mana, you only get a 2/2, but when it enters the battlefield, you get to choose one of your opponent's phases. Beginning phase, pre-combat main phase, combat phase, post-combat main phase, or ending phase, and you get to steal that phase from target player during their next turn. So this, much like Phobie, does a double whammy on your opponent. Let's say you play your Clocknapper, your opponent's got a big board full of creatures, you don't really want them to attack you, so when it enters the battlefield, you steal your opponent's combat phase. Not only does that mean your opponent can't attack you, because they don't have a combat phase anymore, you actually get to attack during their combat phase with your creatures at your opponent. Super sweet idea. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Fate Spinner. Obviously some similarities, but I think that's the card it reminds me of most, except better in some ways, because you're not just making your opponent skip a phase, you're actually gaining control of that phase, which is really, really powerful and super fun. We also got a bunch more commons and uncommons. Ordinary Pony, a super sweet host, allowing you to exile a non-horse creature, return to the battlefield under your control whenever you do something. When it enters the battlefield, for one thing, so it can work kind of like a Flicker Wisp type effect, or when your augmented creature triggers. The sweetest thing here is there is an augment creature. Oh man, I don't remember which one it was. I think it's the squirrel or the kitten. One of them allows you to trigger it whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield. So that augment with Ordinary Pony as the host basically lets you go infinite, because the non-token creature will enter the battlefield, you get to blink, non-token creature enters the battlefield, you get to blink, just keep going over and over and over again. Seems super, super fun. We also got a couple more dexterity cards. Skull Saucer lets you blow up any creature you want and leaves behind a 4/1 flying body for 6 mana. However, it also forces you to put your head on the table, and if your head ever leaves the table, you gotta sacrifice the Skull Saucer. So it's gonna put you in an awkward position for the power that you get from it. Still, probably worth putting your head on the table to kill your opponent's best thing and have a big flying body. Gimme 5, on the other hand, is one of the sweetest cards in this set. So you cast it for 1 mana, you gotta run around the room, essentially, high-five as many people as possible in 30 seconds. For each person you high-five, you get to gain a life, and each person who's playing a silver bordered game that high-fives you gets to gain a life as well. So some super sweet tricks there. I love that they feel like they need to clarify that you offer the high-five and don't just run around and hit people. Guess that could have been a potential unintended consequence of Give Me 5. But I'm really curious to see what the pre-release record is. How many high fives can you get at your local gaming store at your unstable pre-release in just 30 seconds? If you open this card and decide to play it, make sure to let me know. Come back, give me a comment after the pre-release, because I want to know what the record is for most high fives at a pre-release with Gimme 5. We also got some more black border cards. Wizards loves printing these black border cards in silver bordered world for some reason. Novellamental gives us a 2/1 flyer for 2, can only block creatures with flying. That is quite literally a black bordered card. Targeted Minotaur, I don't even know what the joke is. At least Novellamental kind of has a funny name to it. Target Minotaur, that's not even a funny name. Where is the joke in this card, Wizards? What is happening? You get a 2-mana 2/1 with prowess. Again, just a black border card, and it's not even funny or joking, so I have no idea what's going on. Wrapping up today, we got Secret Base, another sweet land for the Watermark deck. Basically adds a colorless or 1 mana of any color, but you can only spend that mana to cast a spell that shares a Watermark with Secret Base. Finally, we got the Big Idea, which is a super fun dice rolling card. 6 mana, you get a 4/4, you can pay 2 and 2 black or red hybrid, and you get to roll a 6-sided die, and then you make a number of 1/1 Brainiac creatures equal to the results of your die roll. The big deal here is once you start making Brainiacs, you can tap 3 Brainiacs you control, and the next time you would roll a 6-sided die, you instead roll 2 6-sided dies and use the total result. So this is going to spiral out of control super quick. Once you get those initial Brainiacs, you just tap them and roll 2 dies, and you're getting like 6 or 8 or 12 if you're super lucky Brainiacs. Gonna be like super powered 6 mana young pyromancer with dice rolling thrown in. So I feel like this card is potentially really busted. Good in a dice rolling deck, but fine as a standalone threat. If you open this at your pre-release, don't feel like you got to be dice rolls matter to be able to play the Big Idea. This card is just a busted standalone finisher, rolling dice. If this is the only die roll card in your entire deck, still going to be absolutely broken, super, super strong, great way to close out the game. So really powerful card for limited and for your pre-release. Also cool build around for a die rolling deck. So anyway, that's all we got for today. That brings us to the end of our daily unstable spoilers. So what do you think? What do you think about Urza returning? What do you make of that card? What do you think it does? What about the website Animate Library? Is it too good? Will you play that one? How about Graveyard Busybody? What cool tricks can you do by taking control of your opponent's graveyard? How about the various stealing cards? Is Phobie stealing a text box pretty sweet? What about Clocknapper? How do you want to take advantage of that one? Any of the other cards as well? What do you think of having Novellamental and the other black border, silver bordered cards in the set? The Big Idea, how busted is that? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.